Mainly due to COVID restrictions, each candidate is being interviewed individually, and today's candidate is Julie Pirone from the Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party. Welcome, Julie. Would you like to make a short opening statement to the voters of Renfrewshire North and West prior to going into the specific questions?
Hi Ken, as you said, I'm Julie Pirone and I'm the Scottish Conservative and Unionist candidate for Renfrewshire North and West, and I'm really honoured to be standing in the constituency where I grew up, attended local schools, started my career and built my family, and I want to be your voice in the Scottish Parliament. As we look beyond this horrendous COVID pandemic, our focus must be on rebuilding our communities. We can't be distracted by the prospect of another divisive independence referendum. Our recovery is far too important for that. I believe enough is enough and our union is under threat. And that's what made me take the plunge from the business world into politics. Life can and should be better than this. I bring a wealth of knowledge through my 27 years of working in communications and external relations for chief executives of big British businesses like Royal Mail and BT. And I'm a different kind of politician. I'm decent and I'm new to politics, and I bring a fresh view. I chose to focus on my career, being a mum and providing for my family. And now I want to use those skills that I've learned to help and support everyone in Renfrewshire North and West. And as your MSP, I will use these skills and a lifetime of experience to make our communities a better place to live in, with a thriving economy, local services and town centres that are second to none. I don't shy away from a challenge. I've spent the last year working from home for a global business, homeschooling, virtually campaigning, Zooming with family and friends all across Renfrewshire. I believe that we in the Scottish Conservatives have bold, ambitious plans for recovery. We'll do this by truly supporting businesses and growing our economy, by not keeping them waiting on grants to help them run, by giving our children the education they deserve, like 100 new teachers in Renfrewshire, providing free breakfasts and lunches for all primary age children. And we'll also deliver unlimited, demand-led apprenticeships for young people to get them back into the world of work, and put £2 billion into our amazing NHS. I bring ambition, experience and positivity. I want recovery and I want to go on with a day job, solving the everyday problems of people who are struggling across Renfrewshire North and West, rather than take us through another year of more pain and division. So I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking you to vote Julie Pirone and the Scottish Conservative and Unionists on May the 6th.
Thank you, Julie. We'll get to the specific questions now. You obviously have hinted on quite a lot of the topics that are concerning our voters in this constituency, as they wrote into us. The pandemic and the recovery, there's no escaping the main concern today is to get over and through the pandemic crisis. What are the proposals by your party, not only just to get out of it, but to ensure that the nation's security against additional and future viruses? And following that, you've gone on about the importance of rebuilding the economy. Can you give us some kind of timescales that you anticipate, given the level of borrowing?
I think at the Scottish Conservative Unions we'd like to see back to full employment by 2025. That's an ambitious proposal, but we'll have to do that by helping our businesses all across Renfrewshire North and West. I think we need to, in our first week of Parliament, we would bring through an emergency enterprise bill that would include 10-day turnaround for businesses instead of people waiting for grants. So that would mean the money would go out to struggling businesses quicker, it would help them quicker, and then they would be able to reopen with a bit of knowledge and security in their back pockets. I think that we've had too many people, particularly in Renfrewshire. We've got 750 businesses still waiting for support and grants, or like the taxi drivers who do a brilliant job of picking us all up and dropping us all off, who are still waiting for money to help them run their businesses. So we would spend a lot of time trying to rebuild the economy. We need to get our young people back into work, and as I said, having unlimited, demand-led apprenticeships for young people to get them back into the world of work, and put £2 billion into our amazing NHS. And demand-led apprenticeships for our young people, that gets them back to work. Because I believe that if your economy is strong, then your communities are strong, and that money that our businesses make is ploughed back into the economy and into our high streets. I think, as I said, we would want to get 3,000 new teachers across Scotland. That's about 100 across Renfrewshire into our schools. That kind of helps with the backlog and the years that they have missed from their schooling. And I would hope that we would also be looking at building new social housing, because we've got a dearth of that in the country. And the better the housing, the better the schools, the better the economy. I think the other thing that I would want to see happening, and the Scottish Conservatives are clear on that we would have a town centre rescue plan to help town centres like Erskine become town centres that people want. We can see over the last year in the pandemic, people do want to stay local, they want to shop local, and we need to spend some money back in those areas. We'd also have a fund that would help with fixing all the problems I've been campaigning for over the last 6 months to a year, where we've got holes in the road, rubbish pavements, and that allows people to get out and about a lot more. And I would also hope that we would have a further supports fund for the aviation industry. So Glasgow Airport in the constituency has suffered badly over the last year, and they need help to support all the jobs that they did before the pandemic and get people back flying safely while supporting the business of the airport to run itself. And I would also hope that we would try and bring back tax levels to make sure that people have more money in their pockets. So bring tax levels to the same levels as they are across the UK. And that means people have more money in their pockets, more money to spend in local businesses in revamped town centres.
Okay. You did hint at social housing being part of the growth pattern in there. Is that going to be through the housing associations rather than local councils? I
think it would be a mixture of both through local councils, because obviously the councils are still have some housing stock. But yes, through innovative housing associations that allows probably building to happen quicker than it has been in the past, and get people into good accommodation, modern accommodation, instead of some of the rented accommodation that lots of people in Renfrewshire North and West are in at the moment. Yeah,
so it'll be very targeted then.
Yes.
Very good. Can we go on to health and wellbeing? You have mentioned that, especially in the 2 billion that you were going to be putting into the NHS in Scotland. Is that 2 billion extra, or is is that part of a package that's...
It's 2 billion extra. That would come obviously via the Barnett formula, so it would be inflation plus 2%. That money is particularly crucial because it would be locked in, so that health boards, particularly Greater Glasgow and Clyde, can spend the money where it's needed the most. So I've been campaigning for a long time now on a new health centre for Bishopton. It's still struggling with a creaking old village health centre. There's 12,000 new homes there, and that's really difficult for the people who've moved in. They were promised services and they don't have them, and that kind of money that would go direct to the health boards and be locked in is extra money for them to spend on facilities in local areas. I think part of that 2 billion would also include 325 million pounds allocated direct to mental health services. I think we've all seen, and particularly if you've been schooling your children at home or people have been off their work, we've all seen friends and colleagues and family who've suffered with their mental health. It's a cause close to my own heart, because I believe if people's well-being is good and better, then they're more likely to get out into the job market, they're more likely to be able to volunteer in their community, and it makes us a much better society. So I'm really pleased that we will allocate £325 million just to mental health services, and particularly for services that for our young people and for children, because we have over 100 children who've been waiting a year in Renfrewshire where they haven't been able to access services, and that can only be good news.
Okay, thank you. That links in closely to education. Obviously there's been a setback to the children's education. Primary school probably can pick up a bit easier, but I think secondary schools and moving on to apprenticeships that you've talked about, or further education, I think there's possibly concerns there in the local voters' minds. Could you give us a view of how you would proceed with that?
what I really don't want to see is a generation that's lost to COVID, that have missed out. They've lost, as you said, a year of schooling. I've been homeschooling my own daughter. I'm in awe of teachers and lecturers all across the country who do that job every day, because I have found it really difficult to homeschool. We have lost our way on education, I firmly believe. We used to be the envy of the world, the way our education system was run in Scotland. Mm-hmm. Now we're well down the list behind Portugal, Northern Ireland, Slovakia and Czech Republic. So we need to get back to where we were, and we need to make sure those children don't miss out. And some of the things that we'll do in education, particularly for that secondary school pupils, is 3,000 more teachers, so that would be 100 across Renfrewshire. That would help fix issues with subject choice. We've seen a lot of children lose their subject choice over the last 2 or 3 years simply because there isn't enough teachers in certain subjects. And we still have 1,600 less teachers than we had when the SNP came to power. I think that we would have a national tutoring programme to help those children who have been left behind. My own daughter suffers from dyslexia and dyscalculia, and I see a huge backward turn from, she's only in first year, but she's gone really back to where she was in primary 6 over the last year. And that is really important to me. A national tutoring programme that means every child, regardless of their background or where they come from, gets that help. I think we'd spend another £120 million to catch up on lost schooling, and £1 million on an innovations fund to restore that excellence in our schools, and also restore our facilities well. Some of our schools are still well out of date. We've got lots of good new schools, but we've got lots of smaller schools, particularly in outlying areas of the constituency, that really still need to be revamped. And obviously we would want the SNP government, if they get a majority the next time, as soon as possible to publish that review on curriculum reforms. I believe it hasn't worked as well as it should, and I think we need to find out what went wrong and how we can fix it before it's too late.
Okay, thank you. That's covering both long-term investment to get the 1,000 extra teachers,
yes,
but also the catch-up and tutoring.
Yeah, very important, the catch-up.
For immediate, yeah, okay. Right, switching completely, can we deal with defence changes, please? Yes. The local impact. Obviously, there's concern within the constituency about the government, the UK government, deciding to raise the cap on its nuclear warhead stockpile. Coolport and Loch Long are not far from the constituency. This may mean additional nuclear weapons stored and deployed close to us. Some would argue that there's more than enough such weapons for mutual assured destruction. Why do we need more? And isn't the biggest security threat now from terrorism?
I think nuclear weapons are fundamentally about keeping the UK safe. The deterrent is our ultimate insurance policy against the threat and danger from hostile countries. And I completely understand that people think there is a threat more from terrorism. But some of those countries that are terrorists have nuclear weapons. And I think only this week we have seen Russia trying again to walk into the Ukraine, which is next door to it and is an independent state. And I firmly believe that if you have that deterrent, you don't ever want to use it. I believe that too, but if you have the deterrent, it stops those threat of hostile countries, and I think we need to protect ourselves, particularly because we're an island. I understand that defence is obviously reserved to Westminster, but I understand that my colleagues there in the House of Commons and in the Ministry of Defence looked very closely at the cap, and they judged that the uplift in the cap on nuclear warheads is necessary to maintain a minimal level of deterrent. I think if you've got it there and those hostile countries and terrorists know you've got it there, then you're less likely to use it, but it stops them trying to attack you, particularly when you're an island community. Okay,
thank you. Can we now get to the final question that I have? Many constituents are concerned for the fractious nature of recent politics. It's obvious. This has gone beyond normal party politics and has left divisions in society. It's not just within parliaments or anything. It's going out with that. How do you see yourselves calming the tensions and return our politics to a less divisive state?
I think we need to focus on a recovery after the pandemic. I think if you have a strong country with a strong economy, with very low levels of unemployment, if you have good, well-equipped local communities, and you focus on that and focusing on what people every day tell me on when I'm phoning them or when I'm out leafleting, they want to talk about their jobs, they want to talk about their livelihoods, they want to talk about the kids getting back to school and how the impact that has been. And we can only do that by just focusing on one thing, the recovery of Scotland. I think division is hurtful, it's not helpful at this time. I think the pandemic has shown quite clearly that we need to work together. I think the help we've had from the UK government on furlough and the self-employed scheme, as well as the vaccines and the vaccine rollout, I think that is really important. That shows that we work together and we work together well. We need to keep that up. We need to put division away and focus on our country, the people who live in our country, our children and their future going forward, because they will be the ones that inherit the country. Put division to rest, focus on those things and try, as wherever possible, to work together. And I would like to see all the political parties work together for the good of our community in Renfrewshire North and West and the good of our country.
Okay, that's good. But given that there could be a hung parliament, I know you're wanting to win the full majority as a government in Scotland, but should there be a hung parliament, what other parties would you see yourself aligning with, or would you see yourself aligning as necessary just to keep that harmony going?
We have asked at the Scottish Conservatives for Labour to join with us. We've asked the Lib Dems to join with us and they have turned us down. I would hope if there's a hung parliament, people would see sense that we could get round the table, we could work together and we could rebuild our country. That is the most important thing. It's time to put those party politics after an election to bed. Get on with the economy, rebuilding the country, rebuilding the growth, get people back into work, get the kids back into school. And you can only do that by getting round the table and being fully committed to your country rather than trying to divide it.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to make a closing statement by way of shutting us down for today's interview? Thank you.
As I said earlier, Ken, I'm a local Renfrew girl. I come from a Labour trade union household, so there's mixed emotions where we come from. And I sit in the centre of the political spectrum. I want change, and I want us all to prosper, and I want our lives to be better in Renfrewshire North and West. When I'm out leafleting or phoning constituents, I've been struck time and time again how it's local issues that come up. And ever since I was selected to stand in this seat, I've worked closely with our Conservative councillors to push for change on issues of concerns that people have raised with me. Pushing for a new health centre in Bishopton that was neglected by the SNP, and that's been pretty important to that part of the constituency. Tackling speeding on our roads and the state of our roads all across our communities. Tackling anti-social behaviour in our town centres. Trying to get better bus services for our outlying areas and trying to improve our town centre so that people can shop and stay local. And I also want to make sure that local people's voices are heard, particularly on planning matters and particularly around those matters like mobile fast building that bring some worry when people see them being erected. This is the sort of MSP I would be in Holyrood for Renfrewshire North and West. Putting voices of local people first. You have all been really badly let down by not having a representative in Parliament for the last year. And only a vote for me and the Scottish Conservatives will see us truly focused on our economy and rebuilding our country and dealing with all those issues that I've said matter to people in our communities. That is much better, that's a much better focus than a divisive referendum. So, I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking you to vote Scottish Conservative Unionists and vote Julie Pirone on the 6th of May, simply because it is time for change. And I believe if we all work together, I know we can make things better in the future, grow our economy and have a really prosperous constituency.
Okay, thank you, Julie, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
You're welcome.